Hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Capitol Watch, our preview of the 2015 session of the Missouri General Assembly. And joining me to discuss that topic is Mike Grote, MSBA's Governmental Relations Consultant, and Mike Reed, MSBA's Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, and our Chief Lobbyist. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you.
And Mike Grote, let's start with you. The election is past us now. Tell us about the implications of that and the makeup of the General Assembly as we head into the session.
Sure, and we even saw the makeup of the General Assembly change even after the election was over. So on election night, we saw that the Republicans ended up with 117 out of 163 seats in the Missouri House. And then actually immediately following the election, the next day, Representative Linda Black, who was a Democrat, ran as a Democrat, switched parties and joined the Republican Party and will be caucusing with them during this upcoming session. So at the end of the day, they had 118 members of the House. And over in the Senate, they ended up doing well as well and had a net pickup of 1 in the Senate, which they now have 25 members, Republican members out of 34 in the Senate. So both, the significance is both chambers have what's called a veto-proof majority. They're more than 2/3 makeup of Republicans. And so they can override pretty much anything that the governor were to veto. And they've gone through leadership elections, and we've seen leadership stay pretty much the same as we thought it would be in the Senate. Leading the Senate, we'll have Tom Dempsey as our pro tem, and Ron Richard as our floor leader in the Senate. And then over in the House, Representative John Deal will be the Speaker, and Representative Todd Richardson will be the Majority Floor Leader.
Mm-hmm. Another aspect of the election, Mike Reed, was the passage of Amendment 10 that has implications for the relationship between the General Assembly and the governor, as far as the General Assembly now having the ability to essentially override withholdings from the governor.
That is correct. Amendment 10 says that if the governor withholds money, the General Assembly can override that withhold. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see what happens because we have to have a balanced budget in the state of Missouri, and it rests upon the governor to balance the budget. So he may withhold something, the General Assembly may override that, and then he may withhold something else. I really believe that this whole thing is going to end up in court, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. The biggest thing that worries me is the largest pot of money, of course, is the school foundation formula, and we want to make sure that that is not in the crosshairs of this political battle.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the foundation formula, Mike Grote, what's the outlook for school funding in the coming session?
Well, I think education funding, as well as funding for the rest of state operations, we've seen revenues declining over the last couple of years, and we saw that this past session when you had the governor both vetoing and withholding a number of funds, and there's still millions of dollars that's being sat in that withhold pot currently. So I think walking into next session, when they do the fiscal revenue analysis and see that we've had some shortfalls, I think the budget's going to be incredibly tight. And clearly when the budget is tight, it falls on education. Education is one of the largest portions of the entire state budget. And so if revenues are short, education dollars are going to be short. And so that's very important for our members to be reaching out to the legislature and making sure they understand how important it is for schools to have those funds.
And Mike Reed, speaking of declining revenues, we had a tax cut bill last year. Are we going to see any more efforts to reduce taxes more and possibly affect state revenue?
Yes, I think so. I'm not sure there's going to be as large a tax cut bill as was passed that goes into effect in 2017, but I really believe that there will be a tax cut bill of some sort, be they some sorts of corporate taxes again or some outlying taxes, but I believe that there will be some avenue of tax reduction.
Mm-hmm. And Mike Grote, an issue that we've heard some discussion about is grade cards or assigning grade letters to school buildings. Are we going to see some legislation along that line?
You know, there's always the Groundhog Day scenario that you see in the Capitol, and that's an issue that's popped up for the last few years, and I would fully expect it to come back again. Essentially, what they're looking to do is find a way to assign a grade value to every single school building, and our belief right now is that that's currently being done, and that these grade values are really kind of confusing to parents more than they're helpful.
Mm-hmm. And Mike Reed, an issue that received a lot of attention during the last General Assembly was the issue of the school transfer law, and of course that affects mainly St. Louis area schools at the moment, but are we going to see another attempt to address that, you think?
I believe so, because the attempt happened, and then it was vetoed, and the veto was not overridden. And so schools that are in unaccredited district schools, there will be a transfer bill of some sort. Will it look just like the last one? I'm not quite sure about that, but I believe it'll have a lot of the same parts in it. The question comes again in where do students go? Who pays for it? Do outline districts that receive transfer students, can they assign the number of seats that they receive? And the biggest part was public money going to private schools. In the last year's bill, non-sectarian private schools in the district could receive public school students. That was the killer for us. I think we'll see that again. I think we'll see some more push to have public money going to private schools.
Essentially a voucher.
Essentially a voucher program.
Right, right. And Mike Grote, we've also heard some discussion about the lottery these past few months, and even some ideas of getting rid of the lottery. Are we going to see that attempt, do you think?
Yeah, I think we definitely see that attempt. There's a number of legislators that I think are bothered by the lottery, or trying to figure out the value that the lottery truly imparts. And I think there's always that discussion of is the lottery taking money away from people who need it rather than imparting it to programs that need those funds. And so I think that's definitely a question that's going to get raised this session, and I think we're going to see probably a couple pieces of legislation on either reforming or simply eliminating the lottery altogether.
Right, and regardless of how you feel about the lottery, to eliminate it would reduce state revenue.
It is clearly a revenue source for the state. It's a revenue source for education, it's a revenue source for a number of programs throughout, and losing it would definitely cause some additional fiscal problems for the budget.
Mm-hmm. Mike Reed, another issue we've heard some discussion about is possibly a new citizenship test for students. Are we going to see that?
Oh yes, we're going to see a new citizenship test for students that is being pushed by a group of people who want that students graduating from high school in the state of Missouri must pass the same citizenship tests as are given to people who become citizens of the country. Presently, we have a citizenship test in the state of Missouri. This is just a redundant situation, and if they would go back and look at the tests that are given, I think they would find that it's very, very similar. It's an interesting concept. We just hate, again, to have one more mandate put upon school systems.
Mike, are we going to see any positive legislation for schools this year? You know, perhaps in the area of early childhood or any other issues like that?
I think we'll see some more early childhood education bills, but the biggest problem that comes with early childhood education is the fact that it costs money, and money is very, very tight, and so that's. I think that we will keep continuing to have early childhood bills, but again, funding them is the big problem.
As we approach the new session coming up in January, gentlemen, is it important for our members to be in contact with their local legislators during this period before the session starts, Mike?
Well, right now is when legislators are starting to put together their legislative packages. Pre-filing of bills begins December 1, so it's right around the corner. And that's when legislators are going to start putting together their packages, getting those bills filed, and start moving forward with a plan long before January 7th rolls around, which is the first day of session. So there's no better time than now to be contacting those legislators, making them aware of some of the concerns and issues they might have, and then also paying attention to the information that we provide our members to make sure they're seeing those bills as they're getting pre-filed.
And once the session starts, Mike, we're certainly encouraging our members to visit Jefferson City again.
Oh yes, we have our SBAN visits. We have our meeting in February. It's very, very important that our members come down and see their representatives and senators in Jefferson City, also see them at home, but keep up the dialogue and keep up talking about how the actions of the people in Jefferson City affect the local school district.
All right, Mike Reed, Mike Grote, thanks a lot for being with us, and we look forward to keeping up with you all and your work as the General Assembly begins its session in January. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you.